Everyone will get something small this year. We're keeping it simple and fair." My mom's voice was calm, almost rehearsed as she stood in her kitchen that October afternoon. I had driven to her house in Milwaukee with my son Noah, who was 8 and still believed in the magic of family gatherings. My sister Vanessa sat at the table with her twins, both 12, scrolling through their phones without looking up once. "That sounds reasonable," I said, pouring myself coffee. "Noah will be happy with anything." My mom smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. She had that look she always wore when she was planning something, the one that made me uneasy, though I could never say why. I brushed it off. After all, Christmas was still 2 months away. "My name is Clara. I'm 35, a single mom, and a regional manager for a pharmaceutical distribution company. It's demanding work, but it pays enough to give Noah a good life. His father left 6 years ago. Fatherhood wasn't part of his plan, so it's been just the two of us. I've learned not to ask anyone for help. I show up for holidays out of habit, not heart." Vanessa finally looked up. "Mom, the kids really want the new phones for Christmas. You know, the ones with the good cameras." "We'll see," Mom said, non-committal. I felt a twinge of irritation. Vanessa's husband Todd worked in sales. They weren't struggling, but she'd always had a way of asking for things until she got them. "What about you, Noah?" my mom asked, crouching down. He shrugged. "Maybe some art supplies. Or books," Mom patted his head absently. "We'll figure something out." She turned back to Vanessa's twins almost immediately. It wasn't new, the way her attention shifted, but watching Noah's small face fall stung more than usual. That evening, driving home through the fading light, Noah was quiet. "You okay, buddy?" "Yeah," he said softly. "Mom? Does Grandma like Sophie and Sam more than me?" My hands tightened on the wheel. "Of course not," I lied. "Grandma loves you very much." But even as I said it, I knew better. Growing up, Vanessa got the bigger room, the better clothes, the extra attention. I was the responsible one, the one who didn't need as much. And now, somehow, our kids were repeating that same pattern. 2 weeks later, Mom called about health insurance. She and Dad had been on my plan for 3 years now, ever since Dad's company cut benefits. "Just checking everything's still good for next year?" she said lightly. "Of course," I replied. "Vanessa too, right? You're a lifesaver, honey. You're so good to us." Her words should have felt warm. Instead, they landed hollow. Thanksgiving came and went. Mom fussed over Vanessa's twins while Dad carved the turkey. Noah ate quietly, uncomplaining as always. "Clara, you look tired," Vanessa said with that mock concerned tone. "Are you sleeping enough?" "It's hard being alone, I'm sure." There it was, the subtle jab, polished to sound like empathy. I smiled tightly and said nothing. I'd learned silence was safer than arguing. As December crept closer, Mom called more often, small favors, empty gratitude. The first week brought a hard freeze to Milwaukee, and between work and Noah's school events, I barely noticed the days slipping by. Noah kept asking about Christmas, his excitement steady despite my reminders that gifts would be modest this year. "I know, Mom," he said one evening as we decorated our little tree. "I don't need anything big. I just want everyone to be together." At 8 years old, he was already wiser than half the adults in our family. Mid-December, I drove to Mom's to drop off insurance paperwork. Vanessa was there with the twins, who were sprawled in front of the enormous TV Mom had bought them last Christmas. "Perfect timing," Mom said, taking the papers. "I was just showing Vanessa the gifts I got for the kids." I followed her into the bedroom. On the bed sat 2 large boxes wrapped in glittery paper and 1 small flat package in plain red wrap. "Those 2 are for Sophie and Sam," she said proudly. "And that one's for Noah." A cold knot formed in my stomach. "Mom, you said everyone was getting something small." "These are small," she protested. "The twins need new phones. Their old ones are ancient. They're barely a year old. Teenagers need good phones for school," Vanessa chimed in from the doorway. "You wouldn't understand since Noah's still little." "What did you get him?" I asked. "Socks," Mom said brightly. "Nice wool ones from that outdoor store." "They were expensive." I stared at her, waiting for the absurdity to register. "Phones for them. Socks for my son. Mom's on a fixed income, Vanessa said. She can't buy expensive things for everyone. Those phones cost at least $600 each, I said flatly. Well, we pitched in some money, Vanessa admitted. Noah won't mind, Mom added, smiling. He's such an easy child, not demanding like some kids. He's easy because I raised him to be grateful, I said quietly. Not because he deserves less. Nobody answered. I left without another word. When I got home, Noah was at his desk, drawing. Look what I made, he said, holding up a portrait he'd drawn of our family. All of us smiling together. It's beautiful, I said softly. Do you think Grandma will like it? She'll love it, I lied again. That night, lying awake, I couldn't stop picturing those boxes, phones wrapped in gold paper, socks wrapped in red. Every memory of imbalance, every casual dismissal replayed in my mind like static. By dawn, my decision was already forming. Christmas morning arrived with snow blanketing the streets. Noah woke up early, bubbling with excitement. We exchanged gifts first, just us. I'd gotten him art supplies, a few books, and a warm winter coat. He handed me a coffee mug that said, "World's Best Mom in shaky paint. Do you like it?" he asked nervously. I love it, I said, hugging him. It's perfect. We dressed and drove to my parents' house. Noah held the portrait he'd drawn. Wrapped in paper, he decorated himself. Inside, chaos reigned. Vanessa's family had arrived early. The twins were showing off new clothes. Merry Christmas, Mom called, hurrying to hug them. She patted Noah's head absently. Go put your coats away. Lunch was noisy. Mom fussed over the twins. Vanessa bragged about their grades and sports teams. Noah ate quietly, smiling when spoken to, but mostly invisible. Then came presents. Mom played Santa, handing gifts from under the tree. These are very special, she said, handing the twins the big boxes. They tore them open, shrieking when they saw the phones. Mom, this is too much, Vanessa said, feigning modesty. Only the best for my grandchildren, Mom beamed. Then she picked up the small red package. And this one's for Noah. He opened it carefully. When the paper fell away, his expression didn't change, but I saw something dim behind his eyes. Socks. Do you like them? Mom asked cheerfully. They'll keep your feet warm, Noah nodded. Thank you, Grandma. That's it? Vanessa laughed. No excitement? Kids these days. He said thank you, I snapped. Well, he could sound more grateful, Mom muttered. Noah gripped the package tightly, small hands whitening. Mom, he whispered. Did I do something wrong? My throat closed. No, baby, I said, hugging him. You didn't do anything wrong. No one noticed. Vanessa was busy helping the twins set up their phones. Dad stayed buried in his newspaper. Mom cooed over their new devices, beaming. When Noah's turn came to give his gift, he handed her the portrait shyly. Oh, how nice, she said, glancing at it before setting it aside to clear wrapping paper. You're getting so good at drawing, honey. Noah saw her tuck it beside a pile of mail. His face stayed still, but I saw the light fade from it. The drive home was silent. He went straight to his room, still clutching the socks. Did I do something wrong? He asked again, voice breaking. I pulled him close. No, sweetheart. You did everything right. This isn't about you. Then why did Sophie and Sam get phones and I got socks? I had no answer that could make it right. I held him while he cried quietly into my shoulder. That night, after he'd fallen asleep, I sat at my kitchen table, opened my laptop, and pulled up my health insurance portal. The family plan that covered my parents, my sister, and her husband, 6 people total, cost over $800 a month. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I smiled and began typing. The day after Christmas, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. Noah was still asleep, his face peaceful in the pale morning light. I made coffee and sat back at my kitchen table. The laptop waiting. On the screen, family plan, active members, Clara, Noah, Raymond, Linda, Vanessa, Todd, 6 names. 6 monthly premiums that came directly from my paycheck. When Dad's company slashed its benefits 3 years ago, I'd added my parents to my plan without hesitation. When Vanessa hit a rough patch with Todd's job 18 months later, I added them too. Because that's what family does, right? You help each other, only it never seemed to work both ways. Scrolling through my phone, I saw a post from Vanessa, Sophie and Sam grinning with their new phones, captioned, "Spoiled by the best grandma ever." These kids are so blessed. Blessed. The word made my stomach turn. The insurance portal showed that changes to the plan could be made up until midnight December 31st. 5 days away. Perfect timing. But I didn't press remove yet. I needed to be sure, calm, deliberate. I wanted this to come from resolve, not rage. That afternoon, I took Noah out for pizza. He seemed lighter, but I could still sense the quiet questions behind his eyes. "Mom," he said halfway through dinner, "why doesn't Grandma like me as much as Sophie and Sam?" My heart twisted. "It's complicated, honey." "Is it because I don't have a dad?" The question hit like a punch. "What?" "No, Noah, that's not it at all." He hesitated. "Sophie said her mom told Grandma you feel sorry for me, that I'm harder to deal with because I don't have a dad to help discipline me." My nails bit into my palms beneath the table. So that's what Vanessa had said. And Mom had clearly let it slide. "Sophie shouldn't have said that," I said carefully. "It's not true. You are the best thing that ever happened to me. You are kind and strong and smart. What people say about us says more about them than it ever will about you." He looked down at his plate. "Are we going to keep going to Grandma's house?" "I don't know yet," I admitted. "But whatever happens, you and I are going to be okay. We always are." That night, after he fell asleep, I called my best friend Jessica. She'd known my family for years. "They did what?" She exploded when I told her about the socks and the phones. "That's not petty, Clara, that's cruel. To an 8-year-old. Noah asked me today if Grandma doesn't like him because he doesn't have a dad." Jessica went quiet. "What are you going to do?" "I'm thinking of removing them from my insurance plan." "You mean your parents and Vanessa?" "All of them." "Good," she said finally. "They've been taking advantage of you for years. You've carried everyone and they still treat you like you don't matter. I keep wondering if I should talk to them first." "And say what?" Jessica said. "They know what they did. Your mom knew exactly what message she was sending when she wrapped those gifts." After the call, I sat alone in the dark, the glow of my laptop reflecting off my coffee mug. World's best mom. Noah's gift. His faith in me. His belief that love should be fair. And I realized something simple and brutal. It was my job to show him what fairness looked like. Over the next few days, I went through the motions of work, wrapping up the year-end reports, answering calls, pretending everything was normal. Mom left a voicemail thanking me again for keeping us all on your insurance. Her tone was cheerful, empty as tinsel. December 31st arrived cold and quiet. Noah and I stayed home, watching a movie while snow dusted the windows. At 11:30, after I'd tucked him into bed, I returned to the kitchen table and opened the insurance portal one last time. No more hesitation. I selected 4 names. Linda Harper, Raymond Harper, Vanessa Adams, Todd Adams. Clicked Remove from Plan. A message popped up. Changes will take effect January 1st. I hit Confirm. A strange calm washed over me. Not triumph, not revenge. Just peace. For once, I had drawn a line. The fallout came fast. Mom called on January 3rd, her voice sharp and incredulous. "Clara, I just got a notice that our insurance is canceled. There must be some mistake." "There's no mistake," I said evenly. "You can't just take us off your plan." "I can," I said. And I did. "Clara, your father needs coverage. You know how expensive these plans are." "I do," I said quietly. "That's why I've been paying for them for 3 years." There was a pause, then. "I don't understand." "Why would you do this?" I took a deep breath. "Because I'm done being the only one who gives without ever getting anything back. I've paid for your insurance. I've covered Vanessa and Todd. And this Christmas, my son got socks while your other grandkids got $600 phones. You called it fair? That has nothing to do with this. It has everything to do with this. Her voice trembled. You're overreacting. Maybe, I said. But at least now I'm reacting. She was silent for a long time. Then, coldly, you'll regret this. I ended the call. The next day, Vanessa texted, Nice move, sis. Mom's freaking out. Hope you're happy, I didn't reply. Instead, I took Noah sledding. His laughter echoed across the frozen park, sharp and bright against the winter air. I realized I couldn't remember the last time I'd felt this light. Weeks passed. Mom stopped calling. Vanessa posted vague things online about family betrayal. Dad, quietly caught in the middle, sent a short message in February. We'll figure things out. Take care of Noah. I did. By spring, Noah's drawings covered the fridge, colorful, confident, full of life. He'd started a new art class at the community center, and I'd picked up some overtime to cover it. Every time I saw him smiling there, surrounded by kids who saw him, really saw him, I knew I'd made the right choice. One evening in March, as we were cleaning up dinner, Noah asked, Mom, are we going to Grandma's for Easter? I dried my hands on a towel. No, honey. Not this year. Because of Christmas? Because sometimes, I said gently, being with family doesn't mean letting them hurt you. He nodded slowly, as if understanding more than I wished he had. Can we make our own Easter? I smiled. Yeah, we can do that. We dyed eggs that weekend, messy and bright, and laughed until our sides hurt. There was no pretense, no forced conversation. Just us. It wasn't until early summer that Mom called again. Her tone was softer this time, careful. Clara, it's been months. Maybe we could have dinner sometime. I miss you and Noah, I hesitated. You miss us or you miss what I did for you. Clara, you don't have to answer, I said gently. But if we're ever going to fix this, it starts with you seeing what you've done. Not just to me, but to my son. She didn't speak. For the first time, there was no denial, no deflection, just silence. I'll think about it, she said finally. That's all I wanted, I replied. After we hung up, I stood for a long moment by the window, watching Noah in the yard, chasing fireflies with a jar. The evening light caught his hair, and he laughed, a sound pure and unguarded. I thought about how close I'd come to teaching him the wrong lesson, that love meant endurance. That family meant obligation no matter the cost, but I hadn't. He would grow up knowing that love could also mean boundaries. That respect wasn't automatic. It had to be mutual, and maybe someday Mom would understand that too. That Christmas, 1 year later, Noah and I spent the holiday just the two of us. We cooked dinner together, opened a few small gifts, and watched snow fall outside our window. Noah gave me a framed drawing he'd made. The two of us standing together under a tree, holding hands. Underneath, in careful letters, he'd written, "We're enough." I hugged him tight, tears spilling down my cheeks. "Yes, baby," I whispered. "We always have been. She just didn't think you'd do anything about it." The words hit like a quiet explosion. Silence spread through the room. I could hear my heartbeat in the still air as everyone waited for my reaction. I just nodded, swallowing the lump in my throat. "I see," I said softly, and left before anyone else could speak. Outside, the evening sky looked bruised and heavy, as if it shared my anger. I walked aimlessly, hands in pockets, every step pounding with betrayal. She didn't think I'd do anything about it. That was the truth. She never did. I was the quiet one, the one who took the blame, the one who fixed things and stayed silent. But not this time. That night, I stared at my reflection in the dark window. For once, I didn't look small. "Enough," I whispered to the glass. "No more fixing things that aren't mine to fix." The next day, I went to the insurance office and removed her name from every document. My health, my car, even the small life policies she'd insisted on years ago. The clerk looked up, eyebrows raised. "You're sure you want to do this?" "Yes," I said. My voice didn't shake this time. When she found out, the storm hit. "You took me off your insurance?" she shouted. "After everything?" "After what exactly?" I asked, calm but sharp. "After you made sure I wouldn't do anything about it?" She stared, caught off guard. "You're twisting things." "No," I said. "I'm just done pretending this is normal." For a moment, her expression cracked. Anger, surprise, maybe even guilt. But she turned away. "You'll regret this." "I already did," I whispered as she slammed the door. Days blurred. Family calls came one after another, filled with questions and subtle blame. "You're overreacting," my aunt said. "You know how she gets." "Exactly," I replied. But the whispers spread anyway. At family dinners, I felt eyes on me. Some avoided me. Others offered quiet support when she wasn't around. It didn't matter. For the first time, I wasn't living by their script. Weeks later, I got a letter. Legal notice, bold and cold at the top. She was suing me. Something about emotional distress, about malicious exclusion. My hands trembled as I read the words again and again. I laughed, then almost cried. She was turning my silence into ammunition. My lawyer, an old friend, read through the papers, his brows tightening. "She's really going for it," he muttered. "She doesn't want to win," I said. "She just wants control," he nodded slowly. "Then let's take that away." The following weeks were a blur of meetings and paperwork. Every word I'd ever said to her was now twisted into something else. Screenshots, half-truths, fake concern, all packaged neatly to make me the villain. But something inside me had changed. I didn't crumble this time. Every morning I got up, made coffee, and faced another day of digging through the wreckage of what used to be family. At night, I wrote everything down, not for the court, but for myself. Every memory, every slight, every moment when my silence was mistaken for weakness. Writing made it real, and strangely freeing. The court date loomed like a storm on the horizon. My lawyer called the night before. "You ready?" I hesitated, staring at the packed folder on my table. "Ready enough," he laughed softly. "That's better than most." The morning of the hearing, I woke before dawn. The city was still, the streets empty except for the hum of distant traffic. I watched the sun creep over the skyline, gold spilling across the rooftops. I dressed slowly, black suit, no tie. Not for show, but for clarity. I wasn't going to fight her on her terms. I wasn't going to shout or justify or explain. I was just going to tell the truth. As I locked the door and walked down the hallway, something inside me steadied. All the years of being quiet, of swallowing words, had led to this single moment. When I reached the courthouse steps, I stopped and looked up. The building loomed, old and heavy with stories of people who'd come here to end battles or start new ones. My lawyer was waiting at the top, file in hand. "You good?" I nodded. "Better than ever." He smiled, motioning toward the door. "Then let's do this." Inside, the hallway smelled faintly of old paper and coffee. The sound of footsteps echoed as we passed rows of people waiting, some nervous, some angry, all holding their own versions of truth. And then I saw her. She stood near the courtroom door, dressed in sharp gray, flanked by her lawyer. When her eyes met mine, something flickered, surprise, maybe fear. Quickly hidden behind practiced calm, for the first time, I didn't look away. The bailiff opened the door and called our names. As we stepped inside, I took a deep breath. The air felt colder here, heavy with silence. I glanced at the judge's bench, the flags, the rows of seats waiting to hold strangers who'd decide what my truth was worth. I sat down, folded my hands, and met her gaze across the room. This was it. The end of silence. The judge entered, and everyone rose. My pulse thudded in my throat. When we sat, her lawyer stood first, smooth and rehearsed, his voice echoing through the quiet room. He spoke about betrayal, emotional harm, family duty, words dressed as justice but meant to wound. "She depended on him," he said, pointing at me like a headline. He removed her without warning. Left her vulnerable. I sat still. Every sentence was a mirror of the past, her voice through someone else's mouth. When it was my turn, my lawyer rose. He didn't posture. He just spoke with calm, grounded precision. "There's a difference," he said, "between family and control. My client made a decision to protect himself, after years of being used as a safety net for someone who never believed he would stand up." The judge leaned back, eyes steady. "Do you have evidence of that dynamic?" "Yes, Your Honor," my lawyer replied, handing over a folder thick with text messages, receipts, timelines, proof that my betrayal was nothing more than reclaiming what was mine. While he spoke, I looked at her. She avoided my gaze at first, then turned, lips pressed tight. I saw flashes of something behind her calm, fear, maybe realization. The judge asked her a question. "Did he ever threaten you?" She shook her head. "No." "Did he ever deny you support before the insurance change?" Again, silence. "No." The truth hung between us, simple and unadorned. Her lawyer shuffled his papers, searching for footing. "But, Your Honor, this decision caused her emotional distress." The judge interrupted softly. "Distress caused by what? His independence?" For the first time, she looked small. I remembered every moment I'd swallowed my words to keep peace. Every time she said I was too quiet, too forgiving, too nothing. And now, standing on the edge of that memory, I realized something. I wasn't fighting her anymore. I was freeing myself. The judge took a long pause before speaking. "This is not a criminal matter, nor does it meet the threshold for civil damages. Families fracture, but that is not the court's jurisdiction to repair." My lawyer nodded slightly, already knowing. "Case dismissed," the judge said. The gavel fell like a door closing behind me. She blinked, stunned. For a second, I almost pitied her, almost. But pity was part of the old me, the one who tried to hold everything together. That version had already walked out weeks ago. As people began to leave, I stayed seated. My lawyer touched my shoulder. "You did good," he said quietly. "Really good." I looked up at him. "It doesn't feel good." He smiled gently. "Freedom never does at first." When I finally stood, she was waiting near the exit. Her expression softened, maybe rehearsed, maybe real. "You didn't have to do this," she said. I met her eyes. Really met them, maybe for the first time. "You're right," I said. "But I did." She opened her mouth, then stopped, as if words couldn't find a place anymore. I walked past her, the sound of my footsteps the only thing left between us. Outside, the city felt different, brighter, sharper. The air carried the hum of life moving on, indifferent and free. I exhaled, long and steady. At the courthouse steps, I looked up at the sky again. It was the same bruised blue I'd seen the day I walked away, but now it looked lighter, like a wound beginning to heal. I pulled my phone from my pocket. Dozens of unread messages, family, friends, noise. I turned it off and slipped it away. I started walking with no real destination, just forward. The streets were alive, car horns, street vendors, strangers laughing over coffee. For the first time in years, I felt part of it. As I crossed a quiet park, I stopped near a bench and sat. The autumn wind brushed through the trees, scattering yellow leaves across the path. I closed my eyes. For so long, I thought silence meant weakness. But sitting there, hearing only the wind and my heartbeat, I realized silence can also mean peace. My phone buzzed again, her name flashing one last time. I watched the screen go dark. No anger, no sadness, just stillness. I stood and walked away, each step lighter than the last. Maybe one day she'd understand. Maybe not. That wasn't my burden anymore. Freedom didn't roar. It whispered. And for once, I listened. Gregory laid out the facts calmly. My client is 35, employed, with no legal agreement to provide care for her parents. 3 years ago, she added them, and her sister's family, to her insurance plan out of kindness, paying over $28,000 in premiums. There was no signed contract or obligation. When she chose to end that arrangement, she acted within her rights. The judge turned to my parents' attorney. Do you have any documentation showing a legal obligation? He shuffled papers. No, Your Honor, but there's an implied obligation of care between parent and child. In reverse? The judge interrupted. You're arguing that adult children are required by law to ensure their parents? When the parents are elderly and in need, he said weakly. Gregory cut in. The plaintiffs are in their early 60s, employed part-time, and eligible for marketplace and Medicare options. They are not indigent, the judge nodded slowly. Miss Clara, anything to add? I stood, hands trembling but voice steady. Your Honor, I helped my parents because I wanted to. But over time, that help became an expectation. My son was treated as less than his cousins, and I realized I was teaching him that love meant being invisible. Removing them wasn't about revenge, it was about protecting him and myself. The judge glanced at the file. This began with Christmas presents? It began long before that, I said. But that was when I finally saw it clearly. He turned to my parents. Would you like to speak? My mother stood, voice trembling. She's my daughter. We raised her, gave her everything, and this is how she repays us, by abandoning us when we need her most. I couldn't stay silent. You gave Vanessa everything. You gave me leftovers, criticism, and silence. I spent my life trying to earn your approval and never did. I stopped paying for your insurance because I finally realized I don't owe you for being born. Parents are supposed to earn loyalty too. That's enough, the judge said, not unkindly. He looked weary, like someone who had seen too many families destroy themselves over love twisted into obligation. My ruling is simple, he said. The plaintiff has no legal standing. Adult children are not required to provide insurance for their parents. The defendant acted within her rights. Case dismissed. The gavel struck and it was over. My mother began to cry. My father's face was stone. Vanessa walked out without looking at me. Outside, Gregory shook my hand. You did well in there, stood your ground. The judge sees plenty of family cases, but yours was clear. Thank you, I said. It doesn't feel like winning. He smiled gently. Freedom rarely does at first. Driving home, the weight began to lift. I hadn't just won a case, I'd reclaimed myself. When I picked up Noah from school, he ran to the car, grinning. How was your day, Mom? Good, buddy. Really good. Can we get ice cream? Absolutely. At the shop, he devoured a chocolate cone, blissfully unaware of the war I'd fought for him. He didn't need to know the details. He just needed to know someone was in his corner, always. That night, Jessica called. How'd it go? We won. Case dismissed. I knew you would. How do you feel? Free, I said quietly. For the first time in years. You should. You stood up for yourself and for Noah. Her words settled over me like peace. For once, I believed them. Months passed in quiet. No calls, no threats, no guilt. My parents found their own insurance, expensive but manageable. The lawsuit had cost them money, pride, and the illusion of control. My aunt called in April, her tone softer. Your mom told me everything, about Christmas, the insurance. I'm sorry I judged you without knowing the truth. Thank you, I said. For what it's worth, you were right. Your mom's always favored Vanessa. I should have said something years ago. It didn't erase the past, but hearing it still mattered. Work thrived. Patricia promoted me to senior regional manager that May. You've been exceptional, she said. Organized, calm under pressure. We need leaders like you. The raise meant I could build Noah's college fund and take him on our first real vacation. We spent a week in Colorado hiking through mountain trails. One evening, watching the sun melt behind the peaks, Noah said, "This is the best trip ever." Better than Christmas? I teased. He thought for a moment. Yeah, because here, it's just us, and we're happy. Children have a way of finding truth faster than adults. In late June, I got a text from my dad. I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself and Noah. I should have done more to protect you both. I'm sorry, it wasn't everything I needed, but it was something. Thank you, I replied. That was all. Maybe one day we'd rebuild something smaller, quieter. Or maybe not. Either way, I was at peace. By September, Noah started third grade, confident and bright. His teacher called me in for a meeting. I expected problems, there usually were, but instead she smiled. I just wanted to tell you what a wonderful boy you have. Thoughtful, kind, and talented. You're doing a great job. Tears stung my eyes. Thank you. That means a lot. That night I told Noah what she said. He grinned. Do you think I can have some friends over for my birthday? Of course. Who do you want to invite? He listed 5 names, all from school, none from our old life. His November birthday was chaos in the best way. 8 kids, pizza, laughter, frosting everywhere. I watched him running through the house, surrounded by joy that didn't depend on approval. This, I thought, is what childhood should look like. Love without comparison, joy without condition. When Christmas came again, our second one alone, we had our own traditions. Decorating the tree while drinking cocoa, watching old movies, volunteering at the shelter on Christmas Eve. On Christmas morning, Noah opened gifts, art supplies, books, clothes, a tablet for his digital drawings. Nothing extravagant, just love made tangible. This is perfect, Mom, he said, hugging me. Do you miss them? He asked quietly. Grandma and Grandpa? I thought honestly, sometimes I miss who I wished they were, but not how they made us feel. He nodded. Me too. I like it better this way. Just us. Just us, I said, smiling. That evening, Jessica and a few friends came for dinner. We laughed, ate too much, and for the first time I realized this was family. Not bound by blood, but by choice. Later, with Noah asleep upstairs, I cleaned up in the soft glow of the Christmas lights. My gaze drifted to his drawer, where those small socks still sat, the ones that started everything. I smiled. They weren't a wound anymore, just a reminder. In the months that followed, life moved forward. My parents and Vanessa bore the weight of their choices. The lawsuit drained their savings. Their premiums tripled. My mother's reputation faded as the truth spread. Even Vanessa's perfect image began to crack under pressure. Meanwhile, Noah and I kept building. A life full of people who saw us, valued us, and showed up because they wanted to. I learned something through it all. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away from those who refuse to see your worth. Looking back at that Christmas morning, the socks, the silence, the spark that changed everything, I realized I had no regrets. Standing up for my son, for myself, for dignity, that wasn't revenge. It was peace. And peace, I've learned, is the best gift you can ever give yourself.